Join me in pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. All right, any guests that we don't know? Everybody seems to, oh no, wait a minute. I know you. Yes, I don't know if everybody knows you.
I don't know everyone.
Yeah, so would you introduce her, please?
Yes, so I'm happy to introduce Alex Patrick. Alex is our new Deputy Director of Planning and Community Development.
Welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, approval of minutes. Does anybody have any questions or corrections or resolutions? First off, I know because Austin's gonna want to report on this, but I'm sorry, I was just so excited I had to say it. Syracuse.com reported that Oswego County has so many new business applications. We're the 5th largest in the state and the highest in central New York. That we have had more business applications than Onondaga County,
I'll
Cayuga.
clear it up, it's growth up, it's not total, it's growth up, so we have the highest growth percentage, which is 18% year over year from 24 to 25.
Yep.
It was 836 new business applications, which is pretty big.
Yeah, so I was just so happy about that. I know, because I emailed it to Austin, because
Yep.
it's on Syracuse.com. I said, you probably already know this, but it's good news.
On my list now.
Okay, I knew you were gonna say it, so I had to joke, I had to get it first. Okay, right into resolutions. EP1, resolution authorizing budgetary modification Department of Workforce Development acceptance of Oswego Build Support Funds.
Move it.
Second? Okay. This, accepting money is always good. Rachel, how about explaining where it's coming from?
Well, there's actually two sources within here. I've known about this for a little while, but getting it through. So as you read through this, it is a continuation of our partnership with Center State CEO with the Oswego Build funding. This is additional support, which fulfills some of the match requirements that we have for our state grants to run the programs. So the two sources here, one is Trades Futures, who they are the company that oversee the multi-core craft curriculum that we use that's used for all the build programs. So we got $35,280,000 for that, or sorry, $35,280 from them, and then an additional $10,000 from Constellation to support the program as well. So the Trades Futures money has to be used for the stipends for the participants. And then the Constellation money we tend to use for the tools and the actual project that they build. So the materials for that.
But that also helps with when you ever bring to us saying it's a grant, but there's like $2,000 that local has to pay. This will help cover that.
Yeah, we're still continuing off of the original grant with the current cohort, which is what a lot of this money will be used for. But it is an Office of Strategic Workforce Development grant that requires a minimum of 20% match. Our grant that we were also awarded that will start January of 27 with the next cohort also has a 20% match. So there's a lot of work being done on the other side of trying to get that match funding. We do budget for it between WIOA and the county support that we have, but we don't want to use it for that. So we're still working, and we continue to work with Center State CEO because they keep doing larger grants to support all of the CNY build programs, and then we get our portion to then cover these match.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. FP2, resolution adopting County of Oswego local law number 6 of 2026. It's a local law establishing a capital project in the amount of $6 million to be used for the expansion of the Oswego County Industrial Park in the town of Schuylkill and authorizing a general municipal law agreement with the County of Oswego Industrial Development Agency in connection therewith.
Move it.
Second? We've already discussed it. It's going to be a public hearing at this month's legislative session. And then we will vote on it when it comes to EPD. Austin, would you like to give your 2 cents to it?
Yeah,
I mean, I'd like you to give a 2 cents too as to how it affects.
I don't know if I brought enough of these, but I'm gonna try to pass these around. If you could pass those around, Heather. It's just a document related to what's going to be built at the industrial park, sort of part of the promotional documents related to it. But as a reminder, and then actually, this is a 185 acre expansion of the industrial park down in the town of Shreveport. This has been an existing industrial park that's been there since the early 1980s. Recently, we are down to about 2 available sites left in the industrial park, both on the relatively small side. What we have really seen is that there's been an increase in need, a lot of it related to Micron, but other business needs as well, for large sites that can support large shovel-ready sites to support new industry. What we are doing is building approximately 4,000 feet of new road, water, sewer, electric, and gas, as well as a brand new substation to serve the park. This will allow us to create up to 10 shovel-ready sites for advanced manufacturing, warehouse and logistics, research and development, businesses that are targeted within both the semiconductor supply chain, but also could support other target industries as well. The total project is about approximately $14.1 million to build, and it's funded through a combination of grants from the U.S. Economic Development Administration, Empire State Development, National Grid, and the County of Oswego IDA's own funds. The construction will be starting later this month and will be completed by September 2027. So the reason, the need for the funding, the $6 million of interim financing, is that the majority of the grant funds that we are receiving are reimbursable. And in particular, the Empire State Development funds can take 6 to 12 months per draw to get reimbursements. The way that those funds work, you pretty much, you spend the dollars, it's sort of backwards of what you would normally think how you do things, but you spend the funds, it goes to the state, they determine that you met your MWBE and other project goals. You have to go through a public hearing process. You have to do all these things before they will then issue you funding back. So while we know the money is there to be spent, we don't have access to a significant portion of those funds until we've actually spent the dollars and then make that reimbursement request. So this $6 million will allow us to complete the project on time and on budget without having to stop work to wait for funding to come back to keep going. And so other parts of the project that have actually been that have moved forward since we last spoke was WD Malone, business in Hannibal, was selected as the general contractor for the project. They're also going to be using Oswego County subcontractors such as Oswego Mechanical, All Source Fire Supply, and many others. So we're ready to go on this project. And what we don't want to do is have a late start in the project, try to seek other funds, or have to start it and then stop 2 months in because we're waiting for funding to come back in. So this will help us to get the project done on time and on budget, and support a major economic development initiative in Oswego County. The IDA is a partner, a close partner to Oswego County, and looking for your help to get this project done.
Bill, do you want to say anything about how it affects the county?
Okay, we ended last year with over $50 million in unappropriated fund balance. What this does is take $6 million out of that fund balance and moves it into a capital project for the bridge funding that, not for a bridge, but as a temporary funding, finance this project as Operation Oswego County receives that reimbursement. It's going to come back into that capital project. It brings it down $6 million, but it's going to come back probably within a year to 18 months.
2 to 18. Yeah.
Right.
It's paid back with interest, same interest that county would receive on its own funds for the quarter. And so
Also, this local law establishes a capital project. When you see it again, it'll have a standard budget amount attached to it that moves that unappropriated fund balance into that capital project.
I think it's also important to understand that the county is not writing a $6 million check to the IDA, that we are going to go and request as needed funding.
Right.
So there's potential we may not need to draw the full amount based on the timing of our reimbursements. It's more to make sure that it's there in the event so that we don't have, like I said, so we don't have to stop and have a situation working with Ryan Malone and other contractors there that, we're like, well, hey, we need to recapitalize this fund before we can actually authorize you to continue. You don't want that.
Actually, the thought process was the bills would be submitted and audited and paid by the county, start the clock ticking on repayment, and then you were mentioning, perhaps an accelerated, access to grant reimbursement, talking conversations with revenue sources.
Yeah, we're looking at 2 or 3 different draws, at least 2 draws, potentially 3 based on some funding that's already been spent related to soft cost engineering costs for the project.
Right, so when this project is done and the capital project is closed, just like we do all the others, thus this money plus the interest goes back into our fund balance.
And as I understand, there's a, provision in there that it has to be paid back by December of 27.
That's in the local law, yes.
That's in the local law, yeah. So this isn't something somebody was worried that it could go on and on. No, 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 no. This is 27, it's done.
Okay, make it
Okay.
happen.
It's gonna happen, that's right. Any questions for us? Yes.
When the contractor was selected, do those contractors use union employees?
I'm not sure if on this, there are certain provisions because there being state grant funding in the project, and there's certain provisions because there's US EDA funding. This is a project that has Davis-Bacon standards, so that it's
I'm sorry, is what?
it's Davis-Bacon standards, so they're paying prevailing wages for the project. So regardless if it's specifically union labor or not, they're paying prevailing wages.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? FP3, resolution authorizing transfer of New York State Connectall Office grants, reimbursement funds, and broadband bond anticipation note revenue to capital project number 0524. Second? From my understanding, basically, this is money coming into the treasurer's office from the grants, and we're saying that, yes, now you can take that money and actually put it to the capital project.
Yes, we actually have, and I'm very excited to announce that we've received our first reimbursement money, $5.1 million. So this, until you start getting it back, the process is a little concerning. We obviously did front quite a bunch of money, but it's kind of the same discussion also was happening. It is reimbursed. So thankfully, we did get our first reimbursement, which was every dime we asked for, $5.1 million. This is just the procedural process to allow us to then essentially spend it to continue the project. It also allows Rich, I believe, to authorize the bond funds that we can be receiving as well as by those.
Second round of band funding, bond anticipation note funding, allow you to spend that, and then that gets reimbursed when spent. It's just, the project is accelerating as far as, work and in the field and other stuff, so your amount of money you're spending is increasing.
We do expect to request our second reimbursement by October 1st at the latest. And again, since it was extended, we can ask for additional reimbursements through the end of June of next year.
So this particular resolution is basically an auditing, you would say? Yeah. Any other questions for Tim? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. EP4, resolution authorizing the filing of a petition with New York State Public Service Commission under New York State Public Service Law 991 for a certificate of public convenience and necessity for the county broadband network. Second? Okay.
I can explain, this is required for the broadband network to operate in New York State. It also provides advantages as far as utility pole leases. They're substantially less if you have a certificate of public convenience and necessity per pole per month versus not having one. So it benefits the network in a couple of ways.
Okay, and so I heard 2 words there. We have to have it, and it gives us a better price.
Exactly.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. EP5, resolution authorizing the execution of an easement agreement with the city of Fulton, the Oneida Street Bridge broadband network. Motion?
Move it. Second.
Tim, want to explain?
Yeah, this is an exciting one. So as part of our project for broadband, for the last almost 2.5 years, we've been working on kind of what the path looks like. And there was always kind of one piece that was a little bit dubious that we were like, crossing our fingers, how are we going to do this? And that was crossing the Oneida Street Bridge in Fulton. We have our broadband plan to get there. There aren't power lines that you can run your cable across. And so our original plan had to do with working with Spectrum or Windstream to lease space in a conduit, which is just a tube with pipe, underneath the bridge. That was our plan. We've been working with them for months and months. National Grid, we have requested how much will it cost us to just, run our cable through your conduit? Well, we've been waiting, and finally about a month and a half ago, we got the word back that it was 7 figures. Okay, that was from Windstream, and National Grid still got back to us. So we were like, okay, we pivoted a little bit. So we did something similar on a bridge up in Pulaski that we own, where we attached our own 2-inch conduit to the, either the underside or to the structure or something like that. And then we ran our stuff through it. So we reached out to the mayor, and I want to thank Mayor Rice, Legislator Arduini, and Council President Gambletta. They all kind of came together, and we came up with a plan that I think works with everyone. In conjunction, part of a project, I think I've talked about this before, but when we have to get National Grid to allow us to put our lines on their poles, sometimes they say that their pole can't handle our line. And then we as a project have to pay for a brand new pole. But when you put a brand new pole up, all the stuff that was on the old pole has to get moved to the new pole. And Fulton owns their light fixtures throughout the city of Fulton. And so when we agree with National Grid to put a new pole up, all those light fixtures had to get moved. Well, that's at an expense to the owner. So National Grid says, if we tell you have to do it, part of the agreement is you got to move it. And so we talked to a local contractor there who does a lot of work for them, for City of Fulton, and they said it'd be about $2,000 per pole. So it's going to cost the City of Fulton about $50,000 to move these. That was, again, because of our project. So we kind of worked out an agreement, and I again want to thank Rich as well for the help on this, where the county, through the project, totally reimbursable 100% by the project, will move those light fixtures to the new poles on behalf of Fulton City, so it won't be a charge to them. And kind of in exchange, so to speak, they're going to allow us to connect conduit to the side of the bridge, kind of underneath the handrail, that will allow us to get our stuff across the bridge. So it really is win-win, helps our community taxpayers out across the board, really with no local cost to any Oswego resident, or Fulton resident. So again, win-win. The city of Fulton, I believe, is passing a companion resolution tonight, I believe, is my understanding. And obviously this would be required that they also do the same thing. But again, local governments working together to save the taxpayers' money, I think is super.
Good old fashioned bartering. Love it. Okay, any other questions?
Who does the cable maintenance?
It'll be for the county or the project. It will not be city of Fulton. It will not be responsible for it. It'll be just like the rest of our network. Our plan, I'll get to it when we get to updates, but our plan is to have a contract with someone who will maintain our entire network, and this will be part of it.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's get into the fun stuff. Reporting departments, okay. Operation Oswego County, updates.
Yeah, so you stole my thunder on one of them,
Yes, I
but I did just want to clarify, as you said, so it was very good news to see that we have the fifth fastest growing amount of business applications in New York State, #1 in central New York. A lot of those are those in sort of the construction industry, but there's a lot of other sorts of, it's sort of across the board in terms of types of businesses, so it's pretty exciting. We obviously, our office works with anywhere between 40 and 80 businesses a year. So to see 836 new business applications, like, wow, we're only touching maybe 1 out of 10 of those. It's pretty exciting, the amount of activity that's happening there. The other thing I wanted to state, and so to Legislator Novak's question, WD Malone is a union contractor, so I just wanted to confirm on that. I wanted just to make sure before I just said it.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. So the official groundbreaking ceremony for the industrial park will be taking place this Thursday at 1 p.m. at the industrial park. I know it went out to all county legislators as well as many of the department heads of the county. We will have federal, state, and local officials to make statements and participate in that groundbreaking. And as I said, later this month, sort of the ground will be torn up down there. So we're doing this event before it turns into a big mud pit down there.
Yeah, I hope you have a tent.
There will be a tent, and hopefully it's big enough for the crowd that we expect to see there. So we've already had probably 50 to 60 people RSVP, so excited to see.
It's going to have to be a really big tent.
Yeah.
It's supposed to rain all day.
Cross our fingers.
Thursday.
Other reporting that I wanted to do was that I know at the last month's meeting, we talked about the consolidated funding application process. That's the process that New York State has where they have about 11 different state programs. You can apply for funding through at the same time. Those applications were due July 31st. Operation Oswego County provided technical assistance to many businesses and municipalities through that process. We met with 9 different private businesses. We have 3 different municipalities related to those. I'm not sure the exact amount of applications that were submitted. Some of the businesses we met with, it may have been a little premature, may not have been the best fit. But we believe at least 6 applications for projects that we were involved in were at least submitted at that time. We'll have to wait until later this year to see how those are funded, but there could be some very large and very important projects in that process. Another thing I wanted to report on was that the County of Oswego IDA has scheduled a mortgage foreclosure auction for September 1st at 11 a.m. for 61 acres associated with the former Central New York Raceway Park site in the town of Hastings. The IDA holds a mortgage on a portion of that property. The other portion of that property, the county is also in the process right now of an in-rem foreclosure auction, which in-rem foreclosure is a property tax auction related to the other 82-ish acres of that site. So, you know, in a few months, we'll sort of know who the owner of one or both of those properties are, which is a pretty strategic site. It's located only about 2.5 miles from the county border, about 4 miles from the Micron site, 140 acres. So anyway, strategic site, we're interested to see what will happen with that. And just wanted to let you know that there is an auction scheduled for September 1st related to at least a portion of that property.
How many acres did you say it was?
The portion that the IDA has the mortgage on is 61 acres.
61.
And the portion that the county is going to be going through a very public online auction process is 82 acres. So altogether, it's about 143.
Thank you.
And then one last thing, and this is sort of related to the industrial park expansion, but Operation Oswego County has entered into a contract with Dan Crowley, a videographer, related to doing a series of videos related to the industrial park expansion over the next year. It'll be a big part of our promotion and marketing package related to that site. The first video will be related to our SunnyCon West participation later this year in October, which I know that Tim and Rachel will also be a part of that team going as well. So we're getting to work on that stuff, but you know, we're doing a series of videos pretty much from now over the next year or so related to the expansion of the industrial park and really pushing that out at a national level to attract businesses to the park. So really, we're getting proactive and aggressive in terms of pushing things forward. One last thing, I didn't have it on this list, but we did, yesterday was our deadline for receiving RFPs for our website and rebranding work related to Operation Oswego County as part of that. I know Legislator Rehill has asked me about this several times since the beginning of the year. Our RFPs just came in yesterday. Hopefully we'll be making a determination a little bit later this month in terms of a firm that will be assisting us related to a website, rebranding, new logo, all of it related to the transition from Operation Oswego County to the Oswego County Economic Development Corporation. So the goal is that process will be completed by the end of this year or very early in 2027 with a shiny new website, all sorts of new stuff associated with it. So it's an exciting time, lots of things happening.
Now, am I correct in saying that when we are boots on the ground with our industrial park, all done, ready to go, that we will be the only industrial park in Central New York that is ready, shovel ready?
I would say the only one that's going to be shovel ready that is specifically working on attracting businesses in the semiconductor space. There's other industrial parks that are either mature industrial parks or, you know, in various stages of being built out, but not specifically for this purpose. There's another industrial park that is in plan directly across the street from where Micron is on Route 31, but they're very early in that process. They're still in the environmental sort of due diligence phase right now.
I do believe they have like 80 acres of wetlands.
Give or take, probably.
So I'm curious as to where they're going to go to get new wetlands made, and we need to do something. All I'm saying is, I need to say this, we need to do something, stopping people from the outside coming into our county for their profit. And wetlands is something that we really got blindsided by, and there has to be something that we can do to stop this encroachment. It's this is our vision, this is our county, how we want it developed. And by having the solar and wetlands, they're changing our environment. And we need to stop the outsiders from profiting from coming and taking from us. I just had to make that statement, but that industrial park, I want to keep a real close look at where they're going. Yes.
And I will say, legislator Chesbro, you've been, and I'm not saying that just because we're here, but I've been in the room with you when you've talked to elected officials at the state level and others that, you know, Onondaga County's wetland issues should be Onondaga County's problem.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. I mean, you know, any other questions for Austin? Yeah, Paul?
Austin, because we're picking up more property for the park.
Mhm.
When you have a business move in, do we rent the property that the building's gonna sit on? Do we sell the property?
Good question. We typically sell that property, and they would then build the building, they would own the building. There are 2 buildings in the industrial park that are owned by Operation Oswego County. One is a childcare facility leased to OCO and has been for 30 years. We're actually in the process right now of selling that building to OCO. And then the other building that's in the existing park is a building that is leased to City BOCES. It was originally leased to City Oswego as a workforce training facility. So, primarily though, every other thing in the park is owned by the business that occupies it. And that would be the plan for any new things going into the expansion. The only thing that may be owned by the IDA or Operation Oswego County would be potentially if there would be some sort of purpose-built incubator facility, something like that related to technology incubator, something like that. But we tend to not tie up capital in building like spec buildings or other things like that. It's a very expensive proposition and takes a long time to get that money back.
Well, the reason I asked the question is because what Mel just said about the wetlands. In other words, what would stop me from going in and buying 3 parcels of property and then turning around selling it for double the money that I paid for? Do you have to have a building sitting on it?
You would have to go through the site plan, we wouldn't just sell it to someone speculatively without having a purpose and having them have to go through the entire process to get approved. So if somebody were to go through an entire process to get approved, do all that work, and then turn around and say, well, actually, we're not gonna do it, now we're gonna sell it to them. You know, we wouldn't sell it to them until they're ready to start. So we'd have some guardrails on that.
All right, so we do have a little bit of,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Well, my next.
Yes, yes, go for it.
So in the same vein, the 143 acres down in Hastings, are there any restrictions? Are there any qualifications? Because can Onondaga County buy that property if they're the highest bidder?
That is a great question. Usually the way the auctions work is that if they're a qualified bidder, they can buy it.
Yeah.
Because it is a mortgage foreclosure, we don't have direct site, we don't have control over the property. It's property is technically still owned by Glen Donnelly and CNY Raceway Park until the foreclosure action takes place.
Right.
So, we do have terms of sale provisions that would, make it not attractive for somebody to do some things, but there's certain things we can't do because we don't have direct ownership of that property and the county doesn't have direct ownership of that property. They're doing a foreclosure auction. So, could that potentially happen? Yes, but with the numbers that I believe the property's gonna sell for, it doesn't make sense for that to happen.
So in the portion that's in foreclosure, the difference between his original acquisition and any fees that are against him for the foreclosure itself, that's gonna go back to him if it comes in.
It would not go to him, it would go to the other, with a mortgage foreclosure, there's what's called an upset figure. An upset figure is what the amount owed is based on the balance of the mortgage plus fees and all sorts of other stuff like that. You know, that's what the IDA would be owed, is a upset figure related to the sale. Anything that is paid above and beyond that number would then be distributed, the referee for the sale would take that number above and beyond the upset figure and would distribute it to the unsecured creditors that are owed millions of dollars to that property. So, unfortunately, the way that this property sort of played out was there were a lot of contractors and others who did work and put millions of dollars of work in, never got paid. And so they're all unsecured creditors on the property. So
Okay.
This is really the only way to clear title to the property is to go through these. And if Rich was here, he would tell you the same thing. The only way to clear title, because of the millions of dollars of liens and other things like that, is to go through the separate mortgage foreclosure action on the one property and the in-ground foreclosure on the other.
Got it. So thank you.
I'd just like to say that you could look into seeing if the current owner would be willing to do restrictive covenants on the property when it changes hands. So that could limit what could be done with it.
He's not been a willing, partner to this process. Yeah, so I think that, you know, and I can't get into specifics here, but, you know, I think that there is some interest in potentially retaining this property for economic development purposes. So I can't really get into it more than that, but, I think that, I don't think somebody's gonna walk away with this, cheap to be able to do something that's not to the county's benefit.
And, right,
The IDA can't be an auction bidder
We're
on
looking into that.
and the other portion, not the foreclosure portion.
So,
I mean, if you were,
yeah,
who had the actual financing? Was it a bank?
it was a bank.
Okay,
Yeah, and then the IDA purchased and assigned the rights of that.
I mean, because that's a really interesting piece of property.
Yes, it is.
Right.
very interesting.
Yep, and there has been significant interest in that property.
I bet, especially now. Interesting.
So more to come on that.
Thank you.
I'll be able to share the results of what happens at our next meeting,
When did you say the auction was?
September 1st.
Okay. Any other questions for Austin? Okay, hearing none, let's go on to our next department, workforce. Rachel.
All right, I'm passing out two things, but I'm gonna get some other updates while those are going around. So, our summer youth employment program, started, officially on July 13th. So we're in week 4 of 6. Depending on funding, we will have some extensions. But we were able to place 136 youth all around the county, in all different types of positions with schools, municipalities. Thank you, Heather, for taking a couple, and some private businesses as well. And majority are still working. I'm not gonna say all, but majority are still working. So it's been really, really positive so far. And we've seen where each of the youth going through a 1-day soft skills training up front before they're even placed has been helpful the past couple of years, especially as we're getting a lot more younger applicants into the program.
Explain what the soft skills are.
Yes,
Thank you.
our soft skills, workplace etiquette, dressing correctly, and not like a dressing professionally. It's where are you placed and how should you be dressing for that. Cell phone use is a big one. We actually give all the kids a water bottle and a drawstring backpack and a t-shirt when they start. And the drawstring backpack is for their cell phone while they're working. So it's been really positive so far. I think the last couple of years with that soft skills has been just a game changer. On Friday, in working with our coalition of partners, we were able to submit an approximately $7 million grant application to NYPA for nuclear workforce training. So this was in partnership with Center State CEO, Oswego County Workforce, SUNY Oswego, CCC, City BOCES, Mobility Management, Integrated Community Planning for Childcare, the Building Trades, and Constellation themselves. We are the application that Constellation is supporting. There are multiple applications around the state, but we're hoping that we've got a very solid application. Hopefully we would have indication on awards for that before the end of the year. But we'll see where that goes. It is really, our application is really concentrated on the trades. So there is some high school programming, some career exploration, but then also supporting the Build Pre-Apprenticeship programs, and also with SUNY Oswego, some micro-credentials for construction math, electrical math, right towards the IBEW exam to get in, and some mechanical math for some of the other unions, and then Hugo Community College, their Electrical Technology Associates program, is what is needed for technicians at Constellation. And we worked right with Constellation to see what their minimum requirements are. So we're kind of touching on each of the things, but the application itself is really focusing on the building trades. So it's mostly building on what we've been doing for Micron, but let's now get the nuclear industry in there as well, and we have the partner. So I think that puts us a step up ahead. I mentioned Oswego Build earlier. We did have our third cohort start on July 13th with 15 participants. They are going strong. All of the 15 participants, we thought it was only going to be 8 to 10, but all 15 are going to be able to do a week of job shadowing at Constellation in the middle of September during the Fitzpatrick shutdown. So that will be a great opportunity for them. We've been working with B&G and the project. They're going to be building a new shed on the south side of our parking lot. We've had one there for years that has held a lot of equipment for the summer youth program. We went through. A lot of that equipment was disposed of because it was so old and rusted and just good. But right now in our second floor, we have a lot of tools and wood and other materials for the build program. So we said, let's build a bigger, newer shed, but one that when we're doing our build programs in the winter, we have somewhere that they can then do their project as well. So they're not right in snow when that happens. So there's going to be a new shed going up there. The old one was taken away by B&G, and I think they're using it for storage somewhere at one of the other facilities. So that's been great working with them. And what I passed out. So our WIOA funding, which as you know is about half of our total budget. Our program year is July 1st through June 30th. So what I wanted to give you first up is the training plan. So this is showing our numbers from our program year 2025 that ended June 30th. And it just shows how we were able to spend our different lines of funding. So our adult funding, we were able to spend just over obligated over $204,000 towards services, whether it was on the job training contracts with local businesses for their permanent hires, individual training accounts, which are scholarships for training, and then the supportive services, and just showing the ratio between what we were able to spend on training versus our operating is fantastic with that. So we were actually obligated at 106% of our adult funding. I will say that little overage, it'll get pushed into our next program year because they're mostly the on-the-job training contracts where we're doing a wage reimbursement. So it just gets rolled over into the next year of funding. So no problem with that being over on that. Our dislocated worker funding, we were able to spend $71,000 towards dislocated workers. These are folks that are laid off through no fault of their own. Basically, anyone that's claiming unemployment benefits qualifies under dislocated worker. And our dislocated worker to adult transfer funding, this is something that we are able to do between those two lines of funding. Just moving the money to be able to spend more on the adults that are coming in, and it's all for the eligibility of the individual. But all of that money had to be spent, so that was about $100,000 that was put, again, right to services for individuals. The incentive funding, the fourth box down, we earned that this last program year because of meeting our performance measures and our spending obligations. And we were able to spend it all. The state does not have incentive funding this year. So that is not going to be an option. So there's $100,000 less that we'll have moving forward. And then the youth funding, you can see where there's been some paid work experience, which we have to spend 20% of our funding on. And then spending $26,000 on scholarships for youth, that is something that has greatly increased over the past couple of years, which is really good to see. We do have a lot of success in that. I will bring our performance measures that shows the success of this when I get them. I haven't gotten them from the state yet. I was really hoping to have that and kind of have the whole package for you, today, but, we did a great job. We were able to hit, our spending obligations for PY 25, which then just keeps us in line as we're moving forward. And that puts me right into the other document I sent, which is the program year 2026, budget. Which this really shows the whole picture, of what we are working with starting July 1st, through June 30th of next year. I always have this done for a June Workforce Development Board meeting, and it also is the basis of the county budget I'll be submitting, this week. So you can see the top portion, we're getting a total of $939,883 for WIOA. That is a cut, that is cut nationwide. At this point, we actually fared pretty well, when compared to others, across the state. And then as we down the Oswego County allocation, that is the full 2026 calendar year. That was already approved in our budget, that started January. And then from there, the New York Scion and the New York Scion OMH, those both support our disability resource coordinator, her wage and fringe. And the summer youth employment 2026, that I already talked about is there. And then what we currently have for, our Oswego bill. So this is what we're looking at right now. So it kind of gives you a little preview of what's coming for our county budget as well. But what I like to look at is as you move to the right is that program availability. That's the money that goes directly to our community members to help them gain the skills they need, or right to the businesses so that they can get the workforce that they need. And for us, that's the important number. The more money that's in that column, the better off that we are with more work that we can do as well.
Rachel, one question. You
Yeah.
said that, we did really well with the WIOA, better than other places. Would that be anything to do with the incentive funding, that you've been able to check all the boxes? They see you're doing a good job at using the money well, that they said, we'll give you more? Or is it that
No,
they think we need it more?
It's shares. I had to watch a whole presentation on this because I didn't understand it either. So every state has a certain number of shares of the national out of WIOA funding. The state, New York State, is one of the few that then uses the same formula to give it the money then out to the local areas. So it's based on population, unemployment rate, and a couple other demographics of how we get those shares of the state's allocation. But we can't get less than 90% of the allocation from the year before. We got that.
Okay.
We got above that 90% from last year. There were other areas across the state that were basically pushed to that minimum that they could get.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other part, and I'm gonna say thank you to this body, is that Oswego County Sport, we are one of 12 counties that supports workforce development. Because if not, we'd be working on that $939,000, and that would not cover my staff.
I have a question. We help people that are recently unemployed, and then we help those people to train them into a job. Do we do any money for people that are working but would like to improve and move up in their job, thereby leaving positions so people down here have the future of being able to move up? They're not stuck here. They can move up, but we're moving those people up.
So that's a lot of what we see the adult funding that comes through, because the qualifications for the adult funding is that you are 18 or older and you're making less than $30 an hour. That's it. Those are your qualifications. So you could be underemployed, which is a lot of what we see is people wanting to change around. You know, they've been working retail for years and now they want some manufacturing position. So we move them around for that, give them training with that. The reason we're able to transfer that dislocated worker to adult funding is because the dislocated worker funding is based on data for 2 years ago, sometimes 3 years, depending on when they do it, on the unemployment rate. So for the last couple of years, it's been really high because they were back in 2020, 21, 22 unemployment rates. Our unemployment rate is so low, it's averaging at about 4.2, 4.3 in this area, that there's just not enough dislocated workers. If they come in, we have to serve them as that, which is why we leave some money there. But we can move it to the adult and then serve basically anyone over 18 that is making less than $30 an hour. And it's very rare we see anyone making over $30 an hour that's coming in from.
Right. Are there comparisons with other counties that list that employment rate that you could
Yeah.
share?
Yeah, I get it monthly. I can send it, right? I can send
Okay,
it to
because
Jessica to share it out.
That's an interesting stat to me because when we started the
Mhm.
anti-poverty task force in 2015 or 16, we were like second only to Brooklyn for counties.
We are not.
And we were like over we were like 8.6% unemployment rate. So if we're down to 4%, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, we're like right in line, because I get a chart that is Oswego County, Syracuse, the whole area, and then the state and the federal. But then I get another chart that is every county in the state. So yeah, I get it on a monthly basis so I can share it.
Oscar?
I just wanted to state, so we reported on this at our annual meeting, but for the last 2 years, Oswego County has had our unemployment rate has been lower or equal to the state average and the national average for 2 years in a row. It's the first time that's happened since 1990. So
Yeah.
made a lot. We obviously not saying everything's fixed, but we made a lot of progress.
Lower than state and lower than national,
Or equal to
or equal to.
4.3% last year, which was the state average and US average.
Okay.
Now what we're finding is the people in that unemployment, it's either they have multiple barriers, which is where the supportive services come into play, or there's a gap in skills, which is where having that additional, that larger balance of that program availability so that they can get a micro credential, they can get a training, or a business will take a chance and hire them and do an on-the-job training contract with us because then we're doing up to a 50% wage reimbursement. So the business is more willing for their bottom line to take a chance at somebody that shows the potential. But then also, being able to pay and offer the work keys assessments to show that people are capable of doing the job if they don't have those exact skills.
But let them know really what they have.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Rachel? Awesome. Okay,
Yeah, one of the, I know a while back we had a childcare group. How did that end up working out? We were like a training group that was learning how to do childcare.
Hopefully you'll be seeing even more of it coming up. So instead of being housed under us, it's housed under the Oswego County Child Care Investment Fund with integrated community planning now. And we changed it from a cohort model to just, I don't know how hard as people come in and want an application to start an in-home, then they can go through the whole program. And right now last I checked, I believe there's 4 people going through it. So multiply that by 6 to 8 slots, which is amazing. But we're partnering with Advanced Media to do a 6-month marketing campaign on it to bring more people in to start the program.
Big barrier, big barrier.
Yeah, well, probably the biggest one that's left.
Yeah.
Since we've killed it with transportation.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, girls. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, promotion and tourism.
So, busy month last month. Our staff were out at a number of events. County Fair took place, which I think many of you attended. First couple days were a little bit slow, but definitely by the weekend it picked back up again. A lot of traffic through our tourism building there. So that was good. We had tabling at the Syracuse Symphony event on July 8th, another great event. If you have not been to that, it's one of my favorite each year. So it's looking forward. Check that out. We had obviously Harborfest was this last month, and really just incredible attendance to that. We do support the tourism office supports Harborfest directly, and then also we have staff there partnering with the City of Oswego's tourism group. So again, really exciting. Lot of great turnout there this year.
Before I forget, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tim, but talking to Micron, we told them they were asking about what can they do in the county. And we said we have a lot of events that need to be supported, and I just heard, was it maybe last week, that they're going to give $10,000 to Harborfest.
That's great.
So Micron's trying to get into the community.
That's great. And we had a meeting with those folks, and I think it came directly.
That's where it came from, yes.
And I know they did attend. Some of their staff were in there as well, so that's good. We also had the SUNY Oswego Open House. We attend that every year just to kind of, get with the families, get with the kids who are coming to the region for the first time, make sure they understand, Oswego County is bigger than just Oswego City, but all the great things that we have that they can take advantage of, public transportation, things like that to get them there. So usually, again, not a huge event, but I think it's very impactful for our kids coming. Many of them maybe had never been in this area before. And then also we had the Big Empire Truck Show at Oswego Speedway this year. A lot of attendees for that. So I would say overall, very good, very busy month for our staff. You want me to kick over to the other one or hold off?
One other question, where are we updated on Dirt Week?
So it's a good question. I had a phone call with their CEO about 3 weeks ago. We had a good conversation of it. As of right now, there is still not a funding plan from New York State that will replace what they will be losing at the end of, I believe, this year or next year. I'm still verifying which year it is. I know they will be here this year for sure, but we are still looking at what that looks like for future years. I would say it's been good conversations. I know they have met with both our assemblyman and our senator. Both have indicated support. I have received some support from legislators, so I thank you, and I forwarded that to Derby folks as well. Problem is that there's not really a grant program that does this. This was a very specific action taken by then Governor Cuomo, and really put it in as a priority. But because it came out, if you remember, it came out of them moving the race from the fairgrounds.
That's exactly what the state gave us, because
why.
they tore that down and Dirt Week was like gone.
You got
So in order for them to go someplace, it's the only place, and this isn't dirt. So they gotta have the expense of bringing dirt in. So the state caused this, so.
And they did fund it for, I believe that was 8 or 9 years. So thankfully they did.
Boy, that Hastings property would be a great place for a racetrack.
Raceway.
That was the original plan, was to.
Yeah,
Dirt
it
Week
was.
there.
I'm gonna drag that one back.
So,
I couldn't help myself, sorry.
yep. So part of the issue is that it's a very large expense to bring in the dirt every year, right? And I think that is part of the issue is if this was a year-round dirt track, it would be substantially cheaper and make a lot more sense. A ton of investment has gone into that area by the state and by Dirt Week and by our local owners to make that everything it can be. There really is not another site like it in the state. There is not a dirt track that is large enough to take this on year round that could handle the tens of thousands of campers that come in here and all the demand. There are a couple other ones that are dirt tracks, but they would require huge investment to be able to handle that type of attendance.
Don't they do like the pre-races? Go into like the Fulton track and Brewerton, they have like the
Yep.
building up to the big. So they can't host the big one. They can barely host.
The only other place that's kind of somewhere close here would be Weedsport, but again, they could not handle the type of attendance that this would have. So again, I think there are very open conversations. I don't think this is any secretive. The funding is over and they understand that. And I think they're very serious and they say that if the state does not cover the difference, it doesn't make sense for them again, pay to bring in the dirt every single year. So it would be, I would say it would be, I don't say a tragedy, that's too strong, but it would be devastating for our local economy. That has really grown to the point where it really benefits our, like you said, Burton and Fulton and the other speedways, they all benefit as well. So again, I would encourage you all to be as active as you can. If there's an opportunity you have with state officials, I think it'd be worth that conversation. And to be fair, they need to know sooner than later because it's at least a year to plan that. So it'd be very tough to lose that for a year. So, again, and I'd be happy to share direct contact information if anyone would like to reach out to them directly to see how they can assist. But what I have been told is your support is crucial, but in the end, I mean, the county's not going to pick up the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year that the state is paying to cover the cost of bringing that dirt in.
Do you have a sense of the number each year? Or can you just find it?
So I looked for that. Essentially, I don't know the exact distribution structure, but it was, I think, somewhere around between $5 and $8 million over 8 years, or somewhere in that range. So we're talking at least $500,000 a year.
Yeah. That's a pretty big swing, $3 million difference almost.
Yeah.
So what they should give it high and low end.
Yes. Well, again, that was 10 years ago. I don't know exactly how much it is these days. But a lot of that was upfront.
$500,000.
A lot of that was upfront infrastructure. So some of that money has been spent on things that they don't have to bring in each year. I think it was more expensive upfront. So I mean, it was over $1 million they invested the first year just in getting ready for it. So I think the state understands, I hope understands the importance of keeping them here. You know, would I put it past the state to find another place in New York to put them? I wouldn't, but I think that because they've invested so much already here, I hope that is a strong reason to keep them.
Just moving dirt.
Again, that was 5 to 8 million over how many years?
I believe it was over an 8-year contract. Now, the COVID hit 1 year and there was a kind of an extension. I don't know exactly. I've never seen a contract. I've asked for it. They have not provided.
No
It's
problem.
somewhere down.
Just curious.
6
I mean-
figures no matter what.
I mean, if we're gonna try to find funding,
Yeah.
it's good to have a sense of what we need.
In talking to them, it looks like they need at least $500,000 a year to cover that.
Who uses that dirt the rest of the year?
They store it.
They just store it?
It's special dirt. You can't use it for other stuff. It's like specially formulated dirt for dirt reasons. Let's store it.
So you can't eat special dirt. Who'd guess? Okay. Okay, yes, move right in
Yeah,
then.
great.
Anybody got any other questions for tourism?
I know.
Special dirt.
Okay, special dirt.
Okay, so I'll jump over to the short-term registry and the bed tax discussion we've been talking about. Again, I wanted to introduce Alex Fitzpatrick. We're so thankful to have her with us. She has extensive business economic development experience and history, and she also will be heading up our short-term rental registry and bed tax conversation there. So we're really kind of working in administration of that. It is a lot of work, at least on the front end. I think I've discussed in the past that we expect there's somewhere around 400 to 500 short-term rentals in Oswego County. We're still verifying those numbers, but each of them will need to register in order to transact in our county. That is what the law that you passed says. As of today, we have between 75 and 100 signed up or in the process of signing up. We have contracted with a firm, Deckard Technologies, who will provide us with a full mailing list of every single address of all short-term rentals in our county. And again, we have told the towns and villages that we would make that available to them, make sure that their local folks understand who and where they are. We also have contracted with them to send out a series of 3 mailers to those homeowners to essentially say, starting I believe this week or soon, that they are going to be sent to their house saying, hey, this law exists. You do need to sign up for it. It's $50 for 2 years. It's obviously not super burdensome, the cost of it. And then starting actually July 1st of this year, so last month, the taxation law went into effect. And so that will be a quarterly bill that will need to be collected and remitted to the county treasurer. Now, currently, the tricky piece is that the big companies, short-term rental companies, Airbnb and VRBO, those are like 95% of the listings, do not have an agreement with the county to allow them to collect bed tax. That's because they are fighting the state law. They do not believe they should have to give it to us. They've claimed that they are comfortable sending us a pot of money. They're essentially saying every quarter they'll collect the money and they'll say, through all of the Oswego County short-term rentals, you received $75,000. Here it is. They are willing to break out who it is and how much it was paid and all that. They're saying that that's proprietary information and they won't share it. Now, our law that was passed by you folks, because the accountability piece requires them to itemize it, and they're saying they won't do it. So that piece has been a little tricky. We're trying to figure out how do we come up with an agreement that they will take that satisfies the law that was passed, and also gives us that accountability structure to be able to know who's paying and who's.
Do other
Obviously-
counties have that?
What's that?
Do other counties have the accountability?
Right now, there are 4 counties that we've talked to, again, through Deckard, who works with a number of our counties, who are all fighting this same battle. Now, some of them, I guess, did not pass a law that mirrors the state law that requires that accountability piece. They just say, give us the money, we want the money, we don't really care to check. And that was an agreement, obviously, that those short-term rental companies are very happy with.
So the state law has passed it, but people just have, it hasn't been endorsed. I mean, enforced.
Rich is here. There is some sort of a opting in, opting out piece. Rich, the short-term rental registry and law that we have requires an itemization of the money remitted from the Airbnb. Other counties don't necessarily require that. Is that not part of the
Sales
state
tax
law?
is separate from the occupancy tax portion, and there could be in connection with a rental of a hotel or a short-term rental, deals or kayak rental or bicycle rental that is not subject to occupancy tax, but may still be subject to sales tax. So the governor is not called for the revisions to 1202H, the amendment to 1202H yet. When that is signed by the governor, I anticipate it will be combining both the short-term rental tax law and the hotel that point, but generally sales tax and occupancy tax should be broken out. But there's no other way to track it because it was,
Yeah.
and then to compound matters, we don't raise sales tax in the city of Oswego, but we do raise occupancy tax in the city of Oswego. And 4% of the 8% sales tax in this county goes to the state outside of the city of Oswego. And inside the city of Oswego, 4% goes to the city and 4% to the state. So, but the occupancy tax separate and calculated on the room or the rental fee. So they have other things that are included. They're generally not subject to occupancy tax, but they're subject to sales tax. Or maybe subject to sales tax.
So we're working through trying to figure out how to make sure we have that accountability structure, not just be like, we trust you, Airbnb, that you're collecting it and making sure we can hold. Plus, we need to be able to hold accountable for the law, for the registry. Right now, Airbnb, to their credit, did add a required field in order to vend in Oswego County. All Oswego County residents will need, or owners will need to put in our registry number in order to vend. So that is helpful. But unfortunately, we don't have a way, if they aren't willing to itemize that, to be able to make sure that people are actually on the registry the way the law says. So we're working through that piece. I will tell you the Airbnb and Vrbo piece is tricky because I don't know if any of you have a short-term rental or know people who do, but typically if you sign up for a short-term, you rent an Airbnb from someone, you just have a total amount at the end that you pay, right? It's $180, that includes your cleaning fee and all your taxes. And that gets paid through Airbnb and they send some back to the homeowners. Problem is we can't allow Airbnb or Vrbo to do that on our behalf because they won't satisfy our law. And that means that the homeowner has to track it separately and remit it themselves to our treasurer's office, which adds an extra level and more confusion, and I think will be a disencouragement for them to continue doing this. And again, we want them to do this. The whole goal of this is it's going to bring in some additional funds for driving tourism back into those short-term rentals. And if we add something that makes it more difficult, concerned that we'll have less of that. I do think that it is a benefit to our. So all that's going on. The letters will go out. There's a series of 3 of them starting next week. Feel free, if you have any questions, send them to me or to Alex, and we will answer them. But again, overall, it's been mostly very positive. We also have been talking in some town and village comprehensive planning meetings about the opportunity to have a community interaction forum of some sort, an advisory council, so to speak, for those people who are very active in the Airbnb world. The thought would be, we want them to help us direct how that money is invested back into tourism in their communities. I presented that in a couple of towns, and there were some folks who were a little bit against it at first. They had short-term rentals, and they're like, I don't like this. And we said, well, listen, this is all by law, by our county law, it has to be reinvested to drive people back into their short-term rentals. That's the only, we're not paving roads and we're not balancing budgets. It's only to be spent that way. And we're going to have an opportunity for you to come in and communicate. What do you want to see? I think once we kind of shared that piece, it was definitely better received.
They need to share it amongst all different municipalities so they see what other people are doing with the money. Because some people just, I don't understand. Oh, I see what you're doing. So I think the communication there is a real important thing to get it going.
I agree.
And
Rich?
there's a distinction between sales and occupancy tax. Sales tax is administered by the state. A business would remit sales tax to the state of New York, and the state cuts the county a check. Occupancy taxes are administered locally. So the hotel or inn, whatever, would file quarterly returns under a county certificate of authority with the treasurer, and they're collected locally, administered locally. So that's another distinction between sales and occupancy tax.
But we don't want them to have to do that to us instead of sending a check to the state for sale. Wait a minute.
They cannot send a check to the state for occupancy.
No, that's what I'm saying, but they're already sending us a check to the state. But we don't want them to then send a check to us for the occupancy tax.
We would prefer that, but in order to allow them to do that, they have to agree to satisfy what the law says they have to do, which is that itemization, which they're saying they won't do. They'll send us a check for the big amount of money, but no
Each
breakout.
individual, I'm saying, each Airbnb send us a check.
Right, they're saying they do that
They won't do that.
individual level.
Okay.
Well, you have to file returns.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Whether they're separate returns for separate properties. In fact, it just has to, the treasurer has to be able to look at payment versus the taxable use of the rental or hotel.
And,
Tim, I have a question for you. So you mentioned, that obviously it's not for balancing budgets for building roads. Has there been any thoughts about what potential uses could be? Or what other places have done? Anything you want to share or just,
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely been talking about that. A lot of it has to do with how much money is going to be coming in. There's going to be a budget for it, similar to the way we do. It has the same law as our current occupancy tax, which is for tourism driving and convention purposes also.
so marketing and promotion?
Yep.
Well,
Go ahead, Rich.
if I may, the amendment 1202H also includes the ability to invest in tourism-related capital improvements when signed by the governor. So that will expand the ability of the county to invest in things like docks or boat launches or things like that that could drive tourism. So capital improvements, not necessarily defined under the tax law, but it could cover a variety of different things.
did we not use some tourism money to dredge?
We did, yes.
And that was important for tourism.
And we've seen other areas where we've been able to invest in some of our fishing. For example, we just expanded the amount of money that was given as a prize support for the last big fishing tournament. So anything like that, again, ultimately the money needs to be spent getting people from outside this county to come in this county to spend money. That is the whole goal of it. And so, although I don't want to say it's great, there is some variance in how you can do that, but that's the ultimate goal. Whenever we look at how we spend that money, it has to be doing that purpose. Are they coming here to stay in our hotels and eat in our restaurants? These are the folks that we get invested in. We've seen that across the county, and I think it will grow. I mean, we'll have additional funds. We will have additional opportunities.
Austin?
I just want to say that amenities that are good for visitors are also good for residents. So, as growth happens, additional restaurants, other things come in, things like docks, those are good for residents as well. So, quality of life amenities, things that you do to attract more visitors will have a direct return and improvement to the residents as well.
Just pivot, if I can pivot off of bed tax, again, always available if anybody has more questions on that. But you will probably be getting some calls since those letters are coming out in the next couple of weeks. So feel free to send them our way. So jumping over to, let me do broadband quick. A lot of updates, but I won't get too deep into it. Always give me a call if you're curious or you have more questions. Again, I think I mentioned last month, but I want to say it again. We did get our extension to June 30th of next year. That is a lifesaver for us. It's going to allow us to not have to try and rush out installation on these poles in November and December. You can imagine that's very scary in certain areas. So we're very thankful to have that. It also helps us in another way in that it allows us to extend the state paying for our staff. Remember, I told you, I think last month, we were looking for the budget for next year. We're putting together a pro forma plan for a budget that would show that the revenues off it. All that conversation is still ongoing. But the good news is we can go through June 30th of next year before we have to pick up, so to speak. So again, that's also very encouraging for our staff to know that they have additional funding through June 30th as well. So it'll help us in our budget. But I shouldn't say it that way because ultimately it will be revenue and expenses offset. So but at least it gives us an extra 6 months. Real interesting and real big update is that the county found out between this and last month that we would be required to put out for RFP the ISP, which is the Internet Service Provider. We had for 2.5 years been working with a company called Empire, right from the get-go, right in our original grant application. They were going to be the ISP. They would be the spectrum, so to speak. They're the ones who you know, if you're a resident on this project or on this loop, you're paying your bill to Empire. That's the way it was going to be. If you have an issue with your service, you call them. So they're your provider. Well, ultimately, because of all the changes that over the last 2.5 years, Empire essentially came back down and said, hey, this is not the project we originally thought it was. We don't feel comfortable going forward. So we went back to the state and said, they've dropped out. What do? We obviously need that person. We're not going to, you know, Phil's not going to go to your house and fix your coax cables, broadband, right? So we need someone who does that. That's the private sector. Not that you could.
But yeah, put that hard hat on, but either.
So the state required that we put it out to a new RFP. And again, if we hadn't got the extension, we would have been sunk. So again, very, very thankful for that. We were required to put it out for 3 weeks and it went out last week. So we've got about 2.5 weeks left over. We expect that there are at least 2 firms that are very, very interested in this, both of which are operating in Oswego County already. So it's not like these are from outside the state or the, you know, somewhere along the way. They, I think, will be very, so we will have an option. We're going to move pretty quick, and you folks will need to award that. My hope is it'll just be done in time for the next meeting. So if it comes through here for review. If anyone is super interested and wants to be part of the review committee, absolutely willing to offer that. It may not come through until after the requirements for the committee meetings. So I may very well have to walk that one in if we're not sure how quickly we get it through. So just, again, I hate to do that, but just give you the heads up, that one might be really close. So I don't want to wait an extra month to do it. So keep an eye out for that. Also, we got all 7 of our POPs installed. If you remember, this has been something that's been a bit of a headache for a couple of years now. These are the strategically located point of presence little huts. They're the brain centers, and there are 7 of them on the loop. And it has been, as you can imagine, quite the work to make sure each of them had to be on a property we owned or controlled. And so I'm just so thankful we got through there. Thanks to everyone involved, and a real big thanks to National Grid. A lot of times we blame them, and I will tell you that their staff has been incredibly helpful. We had one of these that had to be installed under power lines. It was a mistake on the engineering piece. We dealt with all that, but it was underneath power lines. And the crane operator was like, what the heck do you want me to do? There's power lines there. National Grid, believe it or not, within 2 weeks had those power lines down temporarily for us to be able to get in there, get the crane in and drop the hub. So I will tell you, I've never had that kind of experience, and
Chop that one up.
absolute thankful for National Grid. And Susan Cole, who's our new relationship director, has been absolutely good. So if you've had bad experience in the past with National Grid, especially on legislators, I can get you her contact information. She's been wonderful. The only other thing I had for that is, well, I think that's pretty much it. Everything else is moving, as we said, and a ton of money is being spent. A ton of money, millions. And so I thank you again for moving that money over by resolution. So, any questions on broadband? Okay, and then my last one is just quick updates on comprehensive planning. We are actively meeting in Town and Village of Hannibal, Town of Volney, Oswego Town, working with Minetto, Village and Town of Mexico, and actually Sandy Pond on some updates with their comprehensive planning. I want to tell you that I've been very encouraged by the amount of forward thinking that we have going on in our towns and villages. So thank you to you if you've been working with your communities, but our planning boards, our zoning folks, and our chief electeds in those towns have really started to pick it up with Micron coming. So there are some concerning communities. I'll talk to you on one-on-one on those, but specifically, generally, we see a lot of movement forward there. And then in our planning office, we're closing out that big brownfield grant. I think I've been talking to you. I know, Roy, you've had some interaction with that out in your neck of the woods. We did apply for another round of federal funding for that because it has been so effective. We spent over $500,000 getting phase 1 and phase 2 studies done. Those are the environmental studies on properties that had like an old fuel tank or something like that. That if you're a potential developer, that's an uncertainty you don't want to take on. So you may walk by that lot and you may leave that former gas station in some town completely undeveloped. This program allowed us to be able to get those studies done, which then allowed people to remove some of that uncertainty and be willing to invest. We spent all $500,000 over the last 3 or 4 years, and we did apply this year and did not get awarded the federal funding. That was incredibly competitive. I think only 3 people in New York State were awarded that. But we think, a very competitive application. We're gonna put it in again next year.
So we have no more money this year for anymore?
Not in that program, no. Now that's the general brownfield grant. That's for the county-wide. We also still have the brownfield opportunity area programs. Now, those are specific to a certain boundary. You cannot use those funds anywhere outside of that. Currently, I believe they're just in Oswego and Fulton. And they're very specific areas in Oswego and Fulton. But we've been working with other communities to create new ones. And Schuylkill already was awarded one. They're building one in Schuylkill, a specific area that allows you to really invest in that brownfield area. I'll give you the map. It's kind of in that like triangle area of land right up with the rivers on either side. It used to be, I think, an old factory of some sort. I'll send you the map.
Okay.
But it's encouraging. They've been awarded, and I've been working with Minetto and actually the city of Fulton on some potential new ones upcoming. So even though we don't have the countywide one, we are working with the communities to kind of develop their own. And those are very strategic investment areas. A lot of opportunity in those. Lastly, we have been assisting low and moderate homeowners throughout the county on septic system replacement. I think we've been talking about that. There's been a number of programs. We were just recently awarded another round of funding, small amount of money, to help specifically on waterfronts. So if you have in your community waterfront septic systems, not sewer, but septic system areas, within, I think it's 50 feet of the coastline.
But it's only in specific.
Very, very specific areas. Unfortunately, that program excluded Sandy Pond, which is the most urgent needed area in the county. And we pushed hard last year. Staff in my office really, we had a number of meetings. They would not bend. And this round, they still excluded it. So that's unfortunate. We really feel like the state kind of messed up on that one.
What is their reasoning not to include it, do you know?
They specifically removed it, that section, because years ago, under the READY program, remember READY, that's those when the water was high, it was the state put in money. They awarded a study to that community to look at putting in a septic or a sewer system. And the community ultimately said it's way too expensive. They no voted it. And I don't know if it's Tim's opinion, to be very clear. I only said this. But I don't know if it's kind of sour grapes that they said, hey, we funded a study to put a sewer in there, and your community said no. The reality was the cost of that community would have been overburdensome. Not enough people there to be able to afford that cost. But after that, they removed it. Essentially said the only answer is sewer. We're not going to waste money. Again, Tim's opinion, they didn't put that in writing. But we're not going to spend money fixing septic systems when we already have a study saying you need a sewer. Okay, let's remove that.
When you said waterfronts, do creeks count?
No, there's a very specific, I'll send the map, I can send the map, we'll get it to you, but it's a very specific section of. I will tell you, we pushed back, Donna in my office, and Karen in my office pushed back and said, and they proposed areas that were, they said the watershed is much bigger than just the lake. This is drinking water is very important to this community, and they refused, they said, this is not the program for them. So, but we'll send the map around.
Well, we did some kind of helping people with septics not near water.
Yes, so there are other programs currently out there, and one of them that we have mostly spent down that does assist folks outside of that, but they're very expensive. I mean, it could be $25,000 for a new septic system, and I think we cover at most 10,000 of it through this program.
Right.
And we are very actively moving forward on that currently.
And we still have money for that?
Not a lot, if so, one or two septic systems.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're working through all that, and we do hope in the future to partner with the Oswego Housing Development Council. This is kind of their mission, and kind of support them. As you folks know, you transferred funds to them earlier this year, and I think we've had discussions about potentially putting some additional funds in the budget to transfer to them each year. They specifically assist these folks as well, so they help cover the university. So keep an eye out. We are going to continue to keep applying for these or partnering with people to apply. And then with that, Oswego Housing Development Council, they were recently awarded a $1.7 million grant to assist rental owners. So this is the first program I've seen like this through CDBG that will assist vacant landlords. If you've got a vacant home or a vacant apartment, that you either can't rent or aren't renting because of they need some help, this program will assist you. You can apply to the OHDC, Oswego Housing Development Council, and they will consider the project. And what essentially the long term is, no one's in it now. This money comes in, someone can rent it now. That's the thought, is adding units to our community.
So they help them fix that apartment?
Fix that apartment, could be potentially, I believe it could be furnace work, it could be roof work, it could be something to allow that home to be rented out again. Now, there is some requirements. It's funded through CDBG, which is your low income federal funds. So there is a requirement that they have low to moderate income folks living there after they fix that. But that is very, very active and huge need in our community. So keep an eye out for that. That money was awarded. It's being administered in part by G&G, which is our grant writing firm. They're the ones who actually wrote it for them, kind of in partnership with us. So another good one there. I think that is everything. Oh, one last quick thing. We are updating our interactive mapping tool on our website for trails throughout the county. So we have about a decade ago, we had the staff and planning office went out to, photograph, a little different back then, and kind of uploaded them. We're doing a different thing using GIS mapping, and there'll be an interactive map with photos and things like that throughout our whole county. We started mostly on the western side, but he's gone up and done work up in the Sandy Creek area as well. Sandy Pond area.
Now, these trails, walking trails, biking trails,
Specifically for walking.
okay.
Could potentially, I think on the mapper, I'll double check, but I think on the mapper, it does say if it could be snowshoe or, fat tire bike is big right now. And things like that, or cross-country skiing. I think that's fine. I don't believe, unless it says otherwise, that it's motorized traffic. But there is a note there that allows it.
Do we have mapping for motorized? I mean, is there a general map of all the snowmobile, ATV trails?
There is. All the snowmobile trails are actually stored on the DEC. I believe it's DECs. Because you gotta remember, our snowmobile trails are funded through the state,
Right.
And the maintenance is all funded through that. They have an interactive map for snowmobiles.
Okay.
ATVs is different because the state doesn't support ATVs. The clubs work on a map that you can access there, and we work very close with our GIS folks to provide the maps.
So if we went to the Oswego County Tourism, you'd be able to access maps for snowmobile and ATVs and now walking?
So we don't currently do ATVs. ATVs is a little bit tricky because those are managed by clubs, and there isn't really I don't want to say there's not a checks and balances, but there could be some potential liability if we put these maps up there until they're finalized. We are working with the clubs to finalize their maps, and the hope will be once they're finalized, we would then put them up there. Because they don't change so quickly that we would need to stay on top of it. But the state ones for the snowmobiles are very clear. If you remember, we have to do like a whole environmental review piece, and so those are very specific maps. Those are all available both on the DC or I think it's Parks actually, and on our map. And I can share that as well. We'll share that around.
Well, and that'll be important because I know that there are people coming in from out of state and using the snowmobile maps to ATV, and that's causing problems for certain property owners.
It is. It's a great point.
I've heard about it more than once.
I will say we've been working very actively with our ATV clubs because they're.
So I know they're trying,
very.
but yeah, these are people, I mean, they're literally just, they're driving in from out of state, camping someplace and taking the snowmobile map and boom, off they go with their, 10 or 15 of them at a time.
Well, and most of those snowmobile maps include state land. Because state, again, allows snowmobile trails. They do not allow ATV. So if you're on state land with an ATV,
Yeah.
you get some troubles. So.
It's good that you're working on that.
To the snowmobile trails that are on that map, do they show where they go, where a farmer gives permission for them to go over the
Yes.
field during the winter? So once again, if it was an ATV, all of a sudden in the summer, they're going through somebody's crops.
Essentially.
Okay.
But to give credit to the ATV clubs, they are very active in trying to make sure that doesn't happen. Because you can imagine their livelihood depends on people wanting to ride the trails.
Right.
And the more and more people who shut them down, the less chance they have in the future.
Right. One question I had about your comprehensive planning when you're meeting with the different towns. Do you share, when you're talking to them, do you share the other creative ideas that other towns are putting in? Because you did mention you're seeing a lot of very excited people in the towns with their plans and being creative. Are you sharing it with each other, with each of the towns
Yeah,
that?
that's a great question. Also, so what I didn't mention is that there are only like 3 firms that are doing all these 10 or 12 comprehensive plans. So the good news is, same folks who are doing Hannibal's are doing Volney's and Oswego towns, and right. And so there is a lot of that kind of sharing of information and sharing of best practices. One of the other things that we're seeing more than anywhere else, and I think some of you have some of these, is that our manufactured home parks. That has been a very big conversation lately. A number of our legislators are very interested in that as well. Sharing best practices and how you oversee them, how you help to guarantee that they are providing a safe place for people to live. And sometimes that's not totally true. And so understanding as a community how you can kind of help encourage them along the right way, working with our health department, partnering with your code office to find a way better forward.
Awesome.
I was gonna just say, Tim, I don't know what ATV event, maybe Legislator Rehal knows because it's his neck of the woods, but there was a massive ATV event this weekend on Saturday on the North Shore at 49. Joa's, Sandbar, Sunshine Eats and Treats, there were, had to be at least 100.
It was the fire department's poker.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, it was tangible, the impact that the people who are using the trail and those are doing, because I usually drive by those on a Saturday, maybe 4 or 5 cars in the parking lot. There were at least 100 side by sides and 4-wheelers at these businesses. Great.
We're in conversations with a regional ATV trail system. We're working with 6 to 8 other counties to talk about how can we start to drive traffic through our county. Oneida County would love to get to St. Lawrence. That's one of the biggest issues. A lot of ATVers in St. Lawrence, a lot in Oneida. How do we open up a trail to come through Oswego? So every Oneida person stops at a restaurant or a bar or a gas station as they make their way to Lewis. I'm going.
Excellent. Any other questions for Tim? Okay. Heather, you're up. Mobility man.
The season is seasoning. I did want to say, because Tim brought up tourism, but at next committee, I'll have a couple weeks worth of farmers market data, but last week, because of the fires, we couldn't launch the week before, so we had to wait an extra week. But when we did launch, the highest ridership came from Sunset RV, which is by Ruby's. And I learned that the riders were using the farmers market bus to connect to HarborFest. So just some interesting data involved in that. But also, if you'd like to use some of that tourism funding for trolleys, I would be interested in it. The first update I don't have in your packet, but I thought it was valuable to provide to this group. There's been a lot of back and forth with Centro regarding the proposed cuts to routes in Central Square. We met with Central leadership, Phil and Mel, and discussed their potential cuts. On Friday at the board meeting, it was decided that Centro is not going to cut the routes. So they're listening to our community and hearing us and what we need. And it's important because having those routes be stable allows them to pass their Better Bus Onondaga project without affecting our county. But also it keeps the service there while we work on a long-term solution versus just having nothing there at all and trying to get them to come back to provide service. It gives us our foot in the door still with service out there. So service
It's
is
all their financial concerns.
I know. That was quite a interesting meeting. Yeah, it's very vocal at
Yes.
points, so I'm very pleased to hear that they
Yes.
buckled.
Oneida and Cayuga County were very vocal in support of this at the board meeting.
Good.
So we have
Good.
support from the other small communities.
Excellent. That's great to have the support.
In trying with that, the first sheet that you guys have is our Q2 ridership information. So we put Q1 ridership compared to Q2. You can see Q2 of 2025 compared to Q2 of 2026, we had a 31% increase in ridership. So this time last year, we were almost at 20,000 riders. And when we calculated it, we were at over 26,000 riders. We can even see that from Q1 to Q2 in 2026, that there was almost a 2,000 passenger increase just from this year's quarter. And in both quarters, we saw a decrease in mileage. So we're increasing our ridership and decreasing our mileage. So the service is becoming more efficient, servicing more people, putting people together on the bus. So servicing more riders, but incurring less of a cost. Super exciting news. Our buses are kind of weighed at a different threshold. They're made from different types of materials nowadays, which doesn't make them as heavy, which means we can add in some needed features. Public transit is changing. The landscape is greatly changing with our ridership. We used to do majority of medical appointments with our public transit buses, but now we're seeing some of the top reasons for transport are now families traveling together and employment. Employment is really close to medical and one of the top 2 reasons for transporting single adults right now. But these new buses that we are going to be procuring the state contract went to a new vendor. So it's our first time procuring with the new state contract holder, but They have told us that they are able to get our buses to us within 6 to 8 months after we order them. Last time it took 18 months.
Yeah.
So very quick turnaround on these new buses. Some of our buses are pushing 400,000 miles, 450, some of them have on them. It's time. But the new features, we are now going to have overhead storage. So all of our new buses will have overhead storage for groceries, suitcases. Sometimes people leave DSS and they need storage above. We're also going to have individual reading lights above each seat so that you can have extra reading light, very similar to like an airplane. And the last big one is charging ports. So there'll be a USB and a USB-C charging port on every seat so that if people are on the bus, they have a way to, maybe they've been at DSS all day and they haven't been able to charge their phone. They can plug it in while they're traveling to their emergency housing facility, and now they have storage, and now they have a way to charge their devices.
That is an airplane.
Yes.
That really is an airplane.
It is. Those features are on contract, so it's not gonna be a lot extra for us. It's all within the contracted price.
Now, these are the new buses.
These are our new
And
buses.
how many that we're gonna be able to get?
We're getting 7,
7.
yes, and, the wraps are also included now in our pricing, which has never been included in the past. We've always had to pay for our bus wraps out of separate funding, and we've never been able to be reimbursed. This is the first year where the state says, if you give me your receipt for your bus wrap, we'll reimburse you the full amount. So that's really great for us because we got custom wraps on our buses last year. Ride the Route is coming back. So we're gonna be doing Ride the Route at Office for the Aging, the health department, that building off of Bunner Street. It's a really solid location. We've never done this class there before. We've traditionally done it in Fulton and Pulaski, so first time we're doing it in Oswego. This is 2 classes that we will have where we will take people on a Central bus, and then we will take them on one of our county buses on the way back. So they get to ride both systems. And we actually missed the bus on purpose in this class, so that the class attendees can learn how to transit plan right on the spot. Don't worry, we don't leave them stranded, but it's a good like good feeling for them. We can't always park the bus. There's been a lot of requests for the bus to be parked at a lot of events because people want to check it out, and it's been fantastic. I can't get the buses there. We have 7 of them right now, and they're usually in service when people want to see them. So we are looking at bringing one of these. It's a cutout where you can put your face in the picture. It's being designed. It's creative, but this is something we can bring instead of the bus if we want to get the kids involved. Office for the Aging actually is going to have this at their senior picnic for the seniors to come and take a picture with it and get used to it. We've also redesigned our shuttle stop signs. So we have sandwich boards, and a part of the rebranding, we wanted to make sure that these are cohesive with the branding. And so these shuttle stop signs, Luke actually printed them. So thank you to Luke and Tim's office. We'll go on the sandwich boards for normal services and also for seasonal services. So just to give you an idea of what those look like. Here we go. So there's state fair draft routes are in there as well. So we have state fair routes just on the weekends. That's what we're able to do right now with our resources. But routes will be from Cayuga Community College. We can't do it from Oswego High School this year. They're having some construction in their parking lot. But alternatively, we have partnered with SUNY. And SUNY is letting us use their Romney lot for the park and ride. And also, they're going to be advertising directly to their students so that we can get some students to ride the bus as well. And then we have the third stop, which is in Central Square. That stops in Phoenix on its way at Three Rivers Plaza.
Thank you.
This is our 4th or 5th year providing transport for the senior picnic in partnership with OCO. OCO uses their buses for this service because it is a senior specific service versus open to the public. That's why you see their bus on here. Mobility management does the intake for this. So we create the list, we do the intake, and then we send it to OCO to do it. They are completely filled. They've filled all the spots for the senior picnic. So now we're kind of just waiting to see if anyone else needs transport. Last year, we transported 42 people to the picnic. Balloons Under the Moon, which is in Granby. This was very popular last year. We did provide a shuttle last year. It was horrible. Not because the service was bad, but because we were not expecting the large amounts of people to come from outside of our county to attend this event. So this year we've been working with the police department, with the traffic safety board, with the city, with the village, to make sure that we can run this smoothly. And there's going to be 4 shuttles this year. One dedicated park and ride shuttle from each one of the locations so that we can help with parking, so that people can ride these. Yes. Did you have a question? No. Okay. Sorry. I'm almost through these. I know it's a lot. There's a flyer in here for MAS. We're having severe issues with MAS right now.
For how long have we had it?
Yeah, I want to be completely transparent.
Yeah.
What is happening right now with MAS is there's 2 particular taxi providers in our community that are approved to do Medicaid transport. These providers do not operate past 5 p.m. on Saturday, and they don't operate on Sundays at all. So we have 0 providers locally that can do Medicaid. The taxis also started to get creative and realized that if they don't turn on their portals on the weekend to accept these trips, they know that there is a deficit and a need for providers. And so the healthcare facilities have started purchasing taxi vouchers to pay for the taxis to come pick up people that are stranded because MAS has left them there for whatever reason on the weekend. And so MAS, and I've had this in writing from them multiple times, basically tells the healthcare facility to call. You guys are responsible for calling that taxi provider and asking them to turn on their portal to take the trip. They do that. I've done it. I've called the taxi provider. The taxi provider told me, and we can talk about which one it came from, but they basically said, we're not going to turn on our portal. If they give us a voucher, we'll do it, because basically they get more money if they accept the voucher versus turning on their portal and getting paid through the state. And so they purposely will leave their portal off so that they can get more money on weekends by forcing these healthcare facilities to give them private pay vouchers instead. And so I've been working really diligently with MAS to figure out what can we do to stop this fraud, because that's what it is, from happening here in our community. And so I went to OCO, and I said, I need you guys to turn on your services on weekends. I need a local provider here to do weekend service. OCO agreed. They turned on their portal. They're now operating 8:30 to 5 on both Saturday and Sunday to accept Medicaid transports with their wheelchair accessible vehicles. This is important for this group because we operate our public transit services on weekends. And now OCO operating their own services means that the cost to our services will go down on weekends with our access contract, because we run a shared ride system. So it benefits us, but it also benefits the community. So we helped OCO by creating them a custom flyer that says, hey, you have to book your trip through Medicaid if you have Medicaid, but you can request this local provider to do your trips if you're interested on weekends. That's the issue in a nutshell. Also with that, this is a draft, so please be kind. My team makes these from scratch. This is a blank piece of paper, and we completely made this all from scratch. So there are some typos. I did see one in there where Sweden was missing an S. Bear with me, I will add the S. Rich also is adding some legal terminology into this packet before we release it to the public, so he's helping with that as well. But this is essentially a guide on how to use our caregiver feature inside of our Ride Oswego County app. It'd be great to get workforce, DSS, caregiver access, because the people that they serve, they can then view all the trips and they can cancel them. Version 2, they'll be able to start scheduling these trips, which means the rider would no longer have to call OCO. They can. But that gives our DSS, our workforce, the ability just to schedule them when they have someone right in front of them, just to do the trip right then and there to make sure they have transportation. But this is also great for somebody that has an elderly parent. Maybe I have a really stubborn 75-year-old mom that wants to go get her hair done on Saturday, but I want to drive her because she falls a lot, but she doesn't want me to take her. So this is a way where I can see her trip details just to make sure she's safe and kind of check up on her, or vice versa. But this is still a work in progress, but we're very, very close to launching it, and I wanted you guys to kind of see where we were at with the branding and with the guide. We did do a couple trial runs with my staff to kind of see how the feature was working. Other than that, I I am. I'm working with the grant writers again because the state, the federal government, the federal grant actually, the FTA announced that they're doing a pilot grant called ICANN. Because they want to invest more in mobility management. So they're putting out a pilot grant specifically for additional mobility management monies outside of the typical grant that we apply for mobility management funding in. So we are going to apply for it. Because we're kind of in an off season, our mobility management grant will come out typically around April of 2027. And we put actuals for 26 and then estimations for that. So this will give us just extra money if we get it. My idea is to apply to expand our program. You know, we need extra money because we're filtering all of this into our brand deal. The mobility management team is growing. Why not try for it?
Why not try for it? I mean, you've got a lot of basic resume here that would show that, yeah, we use it properly.
Yes, the FTA, when they were here during our audit period, made a comment about Oswego County. When they were auditing us, they said, it is so nice to see a county that actually uses mobility management funding for mobility management versus just offsetting salaries. So they're really happy with us.
That's what you're supposed to. Okay, thank you, as always, Heather. And let's see, I think we do have one oh, somebody have a question? No, one individual left here. Mark?
Thank you.
Last but not least.
Oh, no, that was good. This is infrastructure. This is where it all starts.
It's actually kind of short this month. Most of the work with the Phoenix County project is designed and engineers are going crazy. Not so much for us. You know, we just keep an eye on it and just make sure they're moving forward.
So we do keep it. That's one of the questions. Somebody is monitoring the development and what's going on.
Yes, yes. Socus project. The engineer and I met with this City of Fulton Council a couple of weeks ago in executive session and discussed the Socus project and answered their questions so they understand what the project's about, where we're heading and what we're looking for. More discussions are forthcoming, and I think that's going to be a higher level discussion, probably with the chairman, vice chair and such, when we get down to the numbers. So we have some ideas that we can discuss before going in. With the Socus project, we applied for the IMG grant, the WIA grant. The 2026 CFA was submitted. We're working on the 2026 Fast New York grant application through ESD. Senator Ryan's office has got in touch with me. Well, actually, Tim, he sent them over to me. We sent him all the information about the $12 million awarded in the budget item. It appears that we're going to be working with the Dorm Authority for the funding on that. We just haven't heard from the Dorm Authority yet. So the other thing that was asked of us was doing an FAQ. This is the first draft. The major questions that I've been asked and I've heard, I would like everybody to have an opportunity to look it over. If you see anything else that you think should be on there before we go live with it, we'll add it. So you can just email that to me or call me, however you'd like to do it. Valley Sewer Extension, we applied for CDBG grant. We applied for the County Infrastructure Grant. We applied for the Local Government Efficiency Grant and the Pro Housing Grant.
So we've got, what, 5 grants out there?
For Valney. 4 for Valney and 4 for Socus.
Now,
The individual communities have grants out as well.
Yes, actually the CDBG is a Valney grant, but we helped them put it together.
but do the other local municipalities involved in this, are they going for grants to help with their infrastructure, or does it go toward Socus itself?
All we're working on right now, all this here goes through Socus.
Just so,
just Oakers.
okay.
Yes.
The local grants are for the delivery systems from the house.
Their districts.
The pipe is, well, our, we're concerned with.
The collection system is up to the local municipalities.
Yeah, that's separate. Any money that they collect is for their municipality, not for the actual line. That's basically, because we own that, correct? So Chris, we would be the owner of
We
it?
would be the owner of Socris, right from Constantia, right to the sewer plant.
Okay.
So,
Yes.
so the line from the Silver's pipe to the community or to the individual home is the owner or the community's responsibility?
Well, if you picture this, we have a big line that's gonna go from east to west or west to east. The local municipality is gonna have a group of users over here. They're gonna bring a line from their users and collect it, bring a line to that big line and just tap into it. That's their responsibility.
The line that goes to the major pipe?
The line from the major, yeah,
From the community to the major pipe is the
from
community
the,
pipe.
yeah, and the collection system. That goes from house to house to house to house.
That's the town or,
That's a town, yes,
thank you.
it's responsibility.
And thereby, it answers the big question of those that are paying into it, that are paying for it, are those that are using it.
Yes.
And that's a very important aspect, I think, for a lot of people to think, why are people up here? It's gonna be county tax. No, it's the people that are using it.
And one good thing that came out of the meeting with the council, one of the council members actually put it pretty succinctly to make it more understandable. Socris is just a big customer in the city of Fulton. Just like Miller was, okay? It's just a customer. So you don't have to worry about anything. The city was all worried about stuff inside the city, you know? They don't have to worry about that, so.
I see going into Fulton, it's just one customer.
Just one big
A
customer.
big customer, but a big
Yes.
customer.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
It probably ease some questions too, if I answer some questions, it ease some minds,
It did.
putting it that way.
Actually, Brandy came up with that.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, he did.
Good for her.
Yeah. Sometimes you need that simple, drum it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions for Mark? Does anybody have any new things they'd like to tell us about how wonderful Oswego County is and all the things we have? Okay, well then, if I can have the motion? Second? Okay, thank you, everybody, for another very